G'day guys, welcome back. It is Geographically Challenged.
Dude. Sorry, I have to take this call. I'm so sorry.
Alrighty, we'll try that again. Welcome back. It's Geographically Challenged, episode number 78. And we're all ready to go for another episode. This is going to be a fun one. Pilski's brought himself a fan or a friend or a co-host. Take your pick. I'm going to go with co-host. Bleh's here as well, obviously, as usual. And of course, before we jump too far into things, this episode is sponsored by SkinClub, and these guys are the ones that sponsor HLTV. You might have seen them on the Vitality website in Jersey and stuff like that. The Mongolz as well involved with SkinClub, so you can check them out through all of those avenues as well. But of course, if you're keen to do a little bit of bit of case opening, whatnot, you can check out SkinClub. They do have better odds, as far as I know, than what you get in the game. And if you'd like to give that a try, you can check it out in the link in the description. 7% deposit bonus to get involved, but of course make sure that you are over 18 and gamble responsibly, as we all do. We are all over 18 and we are all in every way, shape and form responsible in life. Isn't that right, guys?
No.
Absolutely. Hell yeah.
Okay, we can't get a line on anything. Great start.
I was expecting you to say yes, and then I was going to say, unlike...
You know what? I'm never responsible, but I never bet. So there you go. I do follow the rules.
I was going to say, we are responsible, unlike our first topic of the day, which is a rumor at this stage, although...
Very smooth, nice segue.
Yeah, although it is looking pretty grim, I'll say. So, of course, what we're talking about is Atox. They have been suspended by ESIC, or they are under investigation by ESIC, and they're being suspended by various TOs. The first that I think suspended them was Blast. They were supposed to go to Blast Lisbon. That's coming up fairly shortly. They're now no longer attending. That spot has gone over to the Huns. Then PGL came out with a very similar suspension and said, you're not playing in the MESA Asian Masters, which just happened over the last weekend, which means you can't make it to PGL Bucharest. Atox obviously would have been one of the favorites for that. And since then, we haven't really heard a peep from Atox at all. I don't think we've seen them in ESL Challenger League or anything like that. Not that ESL Challenger League's on at the moment. But yeah, really haven't seen much. No statements necessarily from anyone on Atox. But this is where it started. Just to catch everyone up, those that maybe aren't aware of what's happening here. Atox, obviously, I would say, number 2 Mongolian org/team at this point, although maybe that's not going to be the case going forward. They were very, very... close to potentially being, one of those teams that kind of is pushing the issue for Asia, and maybe they could potentially overtake a team like FlyQuest and, really go to the next major. They were pretty close to making the major in one of the previous RMRs. They missed out on the previous RMR just very closely again. So they've always sort of been around, right? They've been doing very well for themselves, I'd say, over the last sort of 12 months. But... couple of months ago, or a couple of weeks ago, 26th of February, you can see there, Surf, who is a Chinese commentator, he put out this on his, I think this is Bilibili, whatever social media platform that is, basically saying that there's a top 30 team under investigation by ESIC in relation to match fixing at ESL Pro League 2024. Now, in terms of details, that's not obviously a huge amount of detail. ESL Pro League 2024 could be multiple seasons, could be any number of teams. There's like bloody 60 teams potentially that could potentially fall into this. But look, obviously at this point, everyone was like, okay, which team could it be? Who could it be? People are going through all of the information, trying to figure out, could it be this team, this team, this team, this team? Who's in the top 30? Who could it potentially be? I don't think anyone at this stage really knew who it was, but more recently, we've seen over the last sort of, I would say maybe week or so, there's now been this, which has dropped, which is the announcement from ESIC that Atox are under investigation or suspended. I don't think the actual announcement from ESIC said match fixing. If I've had a proper read through it, I'm pretty sure it doesn't actually specify match fixing, but people are kind of putting 2 and 2 together, and it seems like there's probably something cooking under the under the covers here a little bit. So that's the TLDR of it. Atox basically is suspected of match fixing at this point in time. That is coming through from the Chinese community, from ESIC, and now obviously they've been suspended by PGL and Blast from competing at least in their tournaments. So I don't know what your take is on this, guys. I don't know even where you want to go with this, but I have to say, for me personally, I don't really know necessarily where to go with this one. Like, do I go, I'm really fucking disappointed, or am I really angry, or am I sad, or am I just like, okay, expected? I don't know. Like, I think at this point, we're kind of still not sure exactly what all the details look like, but I have to say, if this is true, I think this would probably be the most disappointing thing that I've seen from Asian Counter-Strike in
Since Forsaken.
Since Forsaken, yeah, probably. Like that's probably like what 8 years now. So this is, in my mind, this would be worse than, for example, the ANZ betting scandal for sure, 100%, because that at least was not match fixing.
100%, and that was, in all honesty, a bunch of kids being very dumb, right? I don't think it was as malicious as what this would be if this does turn out to be true. The one thing I want to point out is what Zerf mentioned on his tweet. Now, considering he was pretty much the first leak, I guess, and he said that the throw or the match fixing or whatever happened in EPL, the last EPL, right?
Which is crazy.
Which is fucking crazy.
Usually they're so scared and they're like, oh, we'll just fix like a meaningless game of like a round robin stage, like ECL or some random Asian tournament or something. But they went fucking hard, bro, if that's true. Like they actually went super hard. That's crazy to me.
And also for me, the crazy thing is like it just the fact that I'm just, because I was casting those games, I remember, and it was the Annihilation show pretty much, right? And I won't lie, they look pretty fucking bad, like super bad. And now the wheels started turning my aged little rusty head. I'm like, what really went down there, right? Look, again, I don't want to delve into too many things, obviously, innocent until proven guilty and all of that, but it does seem like it is leaving the fact that something fucky was happening. I'm looking at the lineup as well for that particular EPL, and the 3 players who are still in the lineup would be Dobu, Cabal, and Mickey, or MIQ, or whatever. MIQ, right? Annihilation was there. Then we know what happened after that. Yami was there for a bit. He left too. And now the 2 new players they have are that score for a bit in between. But now they have Accuracy and Zester, right? I think they came from IHC. So yeah, look, I don't know. I don't want to say anything too crazy, but now I do. I've been thinking about those games in EPL where I'm like, what the fuck are you guys doing? And I'm like, yeah, looks weird. Because they did have they had an upset win, right?
Yeah. No, I think they beat Ents, didn't they? 2-0. They 2-0'd Ents in that EPL, and then they played like really close against Vitality, or like had a really good map against Vitality or something like that.
Yeah.
But it's weird because like you look at it and go, well, I think most people looked at it and went, well, it couldn't be Atox because like they're expected to lose all these games. But that's not necessarily how it works. It might not even necessarily be, oh, they're throwing this specific game. It could be like, piss around, or you're losing this specific round, or who knows what. I don't know. It could be anything. Over under, for example, as well, that kind of thing. So there's a lot of possible discussion points here. But again, like you've said, Blair, and I think it's probably a fairly like prudent position to take that. We don't really know the full details just yet. However, what I will say, again, without going like too hard in on Atox, that will come later on in the piece if this proves to be true, is that I don't think this is a very good sign. Like I have to say, I think it's a really, really, really bad sign that they have been like actually suspended by ESIC and that multiple TOs have followed suit, because to me, look, ESIC doesn't have a great track record, let's be real, but at the end of the day, I don't think you're doing something like this without having some serious information behind it. That hasn't been released to the public just yet, but that will be in due course. So I don't know. What's your take, Pilski? Because you've been, I think, a little bit quiet here, but I think you're probably on the same vein of thought as me that this is not looking good.
I don't know. I don't want to like take too hard of a position until like we get official ruling, but I will just say, it's crazy that Annihilation like just walked out of that game on land because he was like his teammates were like throwing the game or something like that. It's insane, and he couldn't deal with it, so he had to get the fuck out of there.
I mean, the irony of it though, like I thought about it. I was like, maybe Annihilation knew, and he got fed up with it, and he was like, "Fuck it, I'm out." But then I was like, but then he also literally force-bought a scout every single round of that half.
Well, that was, if I'm not mistaken, I think that was Yami saying, he wanted to primary op or something, and asking him to drop him an AWP. So he dropped him the op, and he's like, "Fuck you, I'm just gonna fucking throw."
You know what I mean? Though? Like it's like even if you would do these mental gymnastics and say Annihilation left the team because he knew they were throwing,
no.
Why then would he be fucking buying a scout? And that would be like, you're literally implicating yourself in this, bro. That makes you look real sus. So I don't think it's that. I don't think it's related personally, but
maybe he was trying to get people to look at what he was doing and maybe dig a little bit deeper. Maybe he's leaving out breadcrumbs. Nah. Again,
he's being held against his will. He's got to send a message with smoke signals, bro.
No, buy a scout 3 times if you're being forced to throw this game. Like, come on, dude.
I'll blink twice.
Look, I agree. I don't think this is a topic, at least for today. We should be really, of course, we can delve into it, but I don't think it's really fair, right? Like we said, we don't really have too much information yet. And again, ESIC haven't really put out a final statement. But yeah, it does look ugly, it does look messy, and it does seem like it's leaning that way. But preemptively, I can just say what a disappointment it would be, right? Because Atox were, but for a lot of people, that's maybe the second, third best team in Asia, right? And we're talking about this narrative of if they're able to get a shit together, they find the right 5 players, things could be good. And despite all the problems, they've shown decent promise. They've been pretty solid, taking on some top teams, so to speak. So yeah, it will be fucking sad if this does, if this is indeed true, and it does seem like it's heading that way.
Yeah, I actually think as well, like, you're going to lose some pretty OG Mongolian players as well, like, who are heading up that Atox.
Dobu, man.
Like, Dobu and Cabal have been playing together for fucking, like, 8 years or something. Like, 7 or 8 years, something ridiculous. So there's some kind of unspoken bond that, some things were going on. That's the kind of thing that you're talking about, where no one would say anything. They've been playing together for a long time. But we just got to see what comes out at the end of the day. And, look, it sucks because that's like another Asian team that's been doing pretty decently lately and, has kind of been bringing up the scene a little bit. So
yeah,
I think it's going to be sad.
Yeah, I don't think it's really had a huge amount of conversation yet because it hasn't really properly broken in the sense that it's like, this is definitively what has happened. But I think that's going to be a really, really black mark on Counter-Strike in Asia once again, which is like really, really sad because I feel like it's only just started to be like, oh, people are like kind of caring again, but this just further adds fuel to the fire to be like, oh, all of Asia is just fucking match fixing, just throwing, just fucking not taking the game seriously, whatever. So
even if it is like that one team that does get done, I will say from my own personal experience in a similar situation with the whole O's thing is that there are people that I know either had insider info back in the day or like were doing some shady shit back in the day in the O scene, and I'm talking like ages ago and go, that never got done or that made a lot of money like betting while they were actively playing and all this kind of stuff, and nothing ever happened to them. So whenever you see bans come through, for me, because of those experiences and being a bit of a pessimistic cunt at the best of times, I always think that there's got to be more people that are like abusing the system than just the people that get done. And I'm not saying it's everyone, but, I think that the truth will lie somewhere in between. Some people will get done. There'll be some people who don't. And then the public perception of certain people will be that the whole scene is corrupt or whatever, which is, none of those are necessarily true. The truth is probably somewhere in the middle.
Yep. All right. Well, let's get into some more assumptions, I guess. I want to get your guys' thoughts on this. This is Cabal's story from Instagram, which came out pretty much just after the announcement from ESIC. He says, I just want to say we are on the same boat. So I don't know what your gut feeling is with this, but to me, that reads like he's saying, I've just found out about this as well. Like to his followers, you know what I mean? It's like, oh, I'm in the same boat as you guys. So is that him saying, I've had nothing to do with this and I've just found out that my team's match fixing or someone on my team's match fixing? Can we potentially assume that maybe it was only one player doing this? I don't know.
Or is he saying that he's on the match fixing
He's like, yeah, that was me.
He's on a match fixing boat, but he didn't know what was happening. So the boat he's on isn't us, the people finding out the news, but more like he's on a team with a match fixers. The boat is the team. And so a boat is sinking like a Titanic, except he's
on
innocent.
a river in fucking Thailand, going into Burma, into the triangle, so he doesn't get done. International waters, easy done. He's home free.
Look, there's nothing I have to say about this. I don't know. I don't fucking know, man. I don't fucking know what's happening.
I don't know. I just thought it was an interesting thing to sort of throw in there.
Look, this goes into the the more broader conversation about match fixing in Asian Counter-Strike, which has been a problem for a decade, more than a decade actually, right? And it's not like it's not plaguing the tier 2, tier 3 circuit in EU as well, or NA for that matter, whatnot. But Asia has always been more notorious. I have firsthand. This is a small little story. I don't know if you guys remember this, but like when I was working with So Strong, it's like 2016 or something, and this company from I think from Vietnam or from Thailand, they were like, hey, want to do this event? It's a double elim best of 3. We had like a lot of teams, by the way, a lot of teams from Southeast Asia and a few unknown teams. And I remember So we were doing the tournament. I was doing the production, I was commentating and everything. And then halfway through, we're like, spoke to HLTV. Like, dude, something's weird here. I don't know who these fucking players are. So we traced the IP, and this one team, which was an invite by the TO, we had no idea who they were. And turns out, and they said they're from they're playing from Philippines, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, they're a Pinoy team. And then Dubsky's team, who are Filipinos, they played in the server, and they started speaking to them in Tagalog, in the language, and they didn't reply back. They didn't talk to them at all. And Dubstep was like, for those of you who don't know, Dubstep plays Valorant right now, one of the more well-known Filipino players in Counter-Strike ever. And he's like, dude, I know every Filipino player in my country, any decent one. They're not Filipinos.
Yeah.
So we traced their IP, and they were playing from one LAN cafe in Vietnam. And the TO, now remember, he was from Vietnam as well. And then the wheels started turning. We're like, wait a minute. Like, what's happening here, right? Are these like 5 known? To this day, we don't know who they were. Right? We have no idea who they actually were, but could have been 5 decently known, players in Vietnam who decided, hey, we're just going to play in this fake team, calling the Filipinos. And they look pretty, like the first couple of games, they got stomped by the other teams, right? It's on the 4th and 5th game where I think they managed to catch a lot of teams by surprise, upsets and whatnot. And that's when other teams started speaking up. We had the boot Dreamscape guys, the Singaporeans, we had the Malaysians, everyone. They're like, dude, this is very sus. And we canceled the tournament. We're like, yo, we're not going to work. And then the guy just disappeared, right? So I've seen like some crazy fucking shit in Asia, but never to the extent of a known team being implicated in this manner. Sure, there have been rumors about some of the Mongolian teams, some of the Chinese teams, well-known players and orgs as well for match fixing and whatnot. But yeah, this would be such a stain on Asian CS, especially now that things are looking good, man. Elfish, get to the next topic.
Next topic. Let's go to the fun stuff. I agree. All right, let's talk some ESL Pro League. And hey, there is some fun stuff to talk about here. This is actually fucking awesome. This is crazy.
Yeah.
Dude,
What
I
the
can't
fuck
believe
happened here, bro.
I cannot believe what we have watched. All right, where do we want to start? Where do you guys want to start? Do you want to start with
Tyloo, man.
Tyloo?
Come on, let's talk about Tyloo, dude.
All right.
I'm so hard.
Wait, can we go before this tournament even started and just like set up the whole storyline? It's like,
just go back to the last episode.
Let's make our star a star up and coming rifler, the IGL. We'll pick up Attacker when he hasn't played an official in fucking ages. Everything's going fantastic, boys. Like, these are some great moves.
Let's get Zoking, who's never had any coaching experience, standing behind them. Not Advent, fucking Zoking, who's most famous for that bus driver
for his robotic hands
like this.
Yeah.
What the fuck?
And then they just go and fucking just, kick ass, dude. I'm still so blown away with the way they played, man. And sure, right? Like, they didn't make it deep. They went 0-3 eventually in the main stage of EPL, the second stage, or whatever you call it right now. But still, these are close games.
Stage is still good, bro. And like, they beat Eternal Fire and 3D Max, like, pretty fucking legit.
I think
very good against Gamer Legion as well.
And the thing is, like, they actually looked good as well in some of these games, which is like, it's not even like you look at these and go, oh, this was just kind of like a fluky Asia CS win, like your typical, oh, they just fucking domed heads. And look, Jamyoung had a fucking awesome stage 1. That's fair to say. But it wasn't just like, oh, he just shot them better than them.
G looked great.
Yeah, they looked like they kind of played the game a little bit smart and, had some nice setups and stuff like that. When they played 3D Max and they won that first series 2-0, I was like, okay, like, that's cool. But, like, I didn't put too much stock in it. And then they went and 2-0'd Eternal Fire and I was like, holy shit, this shit's getting real, bro. And I was like, but hang on, we've been here before, We've watched FlyQuest go up 2-0 at the major and then go 2-3. I was like, that's a very real possibility. Then they lose to Gamer Legion, pretty close series. Then they lose to MIB. I'm like, fucking hell, it's happening again, But of course, they just had to end up playing against FlyQuest, which was kind of like, look, it's kind of like damned if you do, damned if you don't, because in one way it's like, well, either way we get one of those teams through to the next stage, which is kind of cool. But also, obviously, one of those teams now has to get knocked out by the other, which was kind of disappointing in a sense. I remember watching that game between FlyQuest and Tyloo, and I was like, this was actually quite a fun game to watch. Pretty good game. 2-1 for Tyloo. I think they definitely showed a lot. I will say one thing about this from Tyloo, beyond the fact that Jamyoung had an awesome opening stage, I think Mosey also had a really good opening stage, and then G was probably the standout on the second stage. but he was pretty good in the first stage. Was Attacker for me was like the real surprise package. You know what I mean? Like I think we all last episode, like you could go back to that last episode, Tyler. Bleh, I remember you bringing it up, Tyloo at EPL, or I think I brought it up, and then you were like, "Oh fucking hell!" Basically, like this is fucking a waste of a spot almost, more or less was like the implication. And like I think we all thought that. We all looked at this Tyloo and went, "We've seen how they've looked at ESL Challenger League. You know, they've just brought Attacker back in after playing with Ormond at Extremes Land, where they only managed to make top 4. 2 or 3 months ago, we thought Jamyoung was leaving for Valorant. Like, there's all these things which you look at and go, I mean, this seems just a fucking waste of a slot. And especially Attacker, I looked at and went, like, this guy's just not going to hang. You know what I mean? And then he comes to ESL Pro League, and, like, I actually was... I co-streamed most of the Tyloo games. So I remember, like, every single time Attacker was in a clutch, I was like, he's going to fucking win this clutch, boys. Like, he literally was a fucking crazy clutch man. Like, it was... I was like, where is this Attacker coming from, bro? He's literally like winning 2v1s and 1v1s and stuff like that. And I'm like, this guy is actually just like, he was almost winning like almost every clutch. Like, it's obviously not, that's an exaggeration, but like he was winning an unreasonable amount of clutches. You look at his numbers, it was like, okay, that was like a middling performance. You know, he was like 0.98 or something, I think, for stage 1. Yep. But like the impact kills that he was getting, I was like, fucking hell, he's like winning so many clutches for the boys. So I was really, really happy with that from Tyloo. I think there's no reason, obviously, anyone should be disappointed. And what was really cool was that, like, I think everyone was kind of getting behind it. You know, it was like that Mongolz vibe again, where like Mongolz were making that rise. Now it's Tyloo making that rise, and people are like, oh, holy shit, like Counter-Strike in Asia is actually kind of cool and fun, and people like it, and they can play good and stuff like that. And on top of that, obviously, we have to talk about G and what he was able to do with the interviews and the personality and all of that, which is really, really cool as well. Because, again, as we would know, G's always been this character. He's always been a fun guy. And you remember how Mongolz and Lynn Vision used to get along. I think a lot of that came down to G, you know, being such a friendly guy with Mongolz at the time. And now it's kind of good to see that the rest of the world is getting to see that as well. And I hope that there's going to be a little bit of redemption for him in the Chinese community as well, because I know he's got a pretty bad rep. They call him P. I brought that up a few times. They literally call him P. They don't think he's good. You know, like he's got like this like rep, I guess, because he's like a fun, outgoing guy, which is not necessarily appreciated maybe in that culture quite as much as like the more stoic, like Jamyoung type-esque vibe. So, you know, he's got this like, I guess people shit on him a little bit in the Chinese community, is the vibe that I get. But I'm hoping, especially after his performances at ESL Pro League, that, you know, people are kind of coming around to him, because I think he's a great advocate, I guess, for the Chinese community. And it's really cool to see Tyloo having some success. So that's my takeaway. Yeah, Tyloo pretty cool. Surprisingly, and I'm here for it.
Like even from here, you can see just how good like their results are given the state of the tournament. Like Lynn Vision, for example, like look at their draw. Their draw is a lot easier. They get a free win over Housebets. There's no free wins for fucking Tyloo in this bracket. They play 3D Max, Eternal Fire, fucking Gamer Legion, MIBR, and then they have to beat FlyQuest. And like all of these teams are in the top like half of the round robin stage. Like they didn't get a free win over a fucking OS team or something. They didn't get a free win. They didn't play any fucking easy teams. And even in the second stage, they played Spirit close on a map. They fucking took a map off Na'Vi. They played Gamer Legion really fucking close. And all of those teams that they played in the first stage are even like 2-2, or they might advance in the fucking second stage. So like, all of these are a really promising series against teams that are doing like pretty good in this tournament. Like it wasn't, and that's the thing that is so impressive for me. It's like you'd think it would be such a forgettable tournament run for Tyloo, but the reason why it's memorable is like I can't talk shit about it. You know, there's so many Asia runs sometimes where it's like, oh, they played a best of one, or they fucking drew an easy team or something, and then they go through. Like if fucking Lynn Vision beat Housebets and FlyQuest to go through and then like upset another team, you'd be like, yeah, but like, does that count? But fucking Tyloo, that's legit as fuck, bro. Like all 5 of those series, that's legit as fuck.
Yeah, I think it could have very easily been exactly what you see there for Lynn Vision. Like that would have been if you would have had Tyloo go and play exactly the way that Lynn Vision did in those matches. You know, 0-2 against Furia, 0-2 against FlyQuest, 2-0 Housebets. Okay, cool. 1-2 against Pain. You'd been like, well, that was kind of the expectation. They didn't really do anything. Whatever, fucking waste of a slot. But they get themselves through to the next stage. And yeah, like you said, like it wasn't even just the fact that they did well in stage 1. It was that okay, well, they went 0-3 in stage 2. They took a map off Na'Vi. They played a map close against Spirit, which fucking who's doing that half the time. And then 2, like one was a double OT and one was a triple OT, I think, against Gamer Legion. So that was a very winnable series as well.
That was a banger.
Crazy stuff. So overall, A+ from Tyloo.
And this is a game Legion who've been looking, pretty fucking solid despite, the line of changes they've had so far. And look, as a prelude to the event, I literally said, this is Tyloo. I don't know what the fuck's happening with them. And the performance, I remember someone replied to my tweet when I was lamenting the fact there is no real second best team in Asia. Everyone is so far away from where the Mongolz are. And yes, Tyloo are also far away from where the Mongolz are right now, but they're there, they're at least in my vision. When I'm looking at Mongolz standing alone in the peak, I can see, Tyloo's climbing up in a pretty upwards, pretty, acute trajectory compared to almost every other team we have in Asia right now. Lynn Vision struggled massively, which for me was a big surprise. But just the fashion in which, like you said, Jordan, this is the fashion in which they were getting the wins, right? Sure, they're going to cut 3D Max off God. Sure, Eternal Fire have looked a little iffy here and there, but still, it's still Eternal Fire, right? This is a team who usually destroy most teams below them in the rankings, and Tyloo absolutely are below them in the rankings. And then, of course, you could see the nerves coming to play in the FlyQuest game, the emotions that this guy was feeling. You can see how G was feeling super stressed and whatnot, but they got a job done. But for me, again, heading into the next stage, like you said, taking the map off Na'Vi, the fact that Spirit, Anubis, sure, not a great map for Dong, but still 13-11 against Spirit, and then final game against Game Legion could have easily have been Game Legion going out 0-3 and Tyloo playing today, right, or yesterday, whatever. Very impressive, and for me, again, it's the way they played. I think Mercury's been playing Colin phenomenally. Obviously, some kings to work out, but overall, for someone that young in this role, calling on land against some of the best players out there, I think that's some of the best teams out there. I think it's fantastic. Jam Young is this is the old Jam Young, right? This is the guy we used to love. Glad to see it in Valorant. G popping off, everything's great. An attacker, one thing I want to point out, one of the best maps is Inferno, right? It's a map they always head towards. And you could see Attacker as a pit player, just the veterancy. He gets an ace there. It's like a fucking 2v5 on that bomb side, and he just played so smart, right? He doesn't have the best aim in the team. Everyone in the team can aim better than he can. But every time, maybe they could get someone else better, but he seems to be the guy who's kind of like the solid bedrock, so to speak, when it comes to some of the iffy moments. So good to see this from Tyloo. I want to see them play more lands. If they're able to continue this could be a similar trajectory to what we saw from the Mongolz a year and a half ago, right? I'm really excited about this. And I know some people are like, dude, it's just one event. I'm like, yes, it's just one event, but it's 8 games of Counter-Strike.
But it's also... It's also the culmination of what this team has supposed to have been for 6 months.
Yes.
You know what I mean? It's like we've been waiting for this event for fucking since that team got put together. Yes, with Starry, and obviously there was issues with Starry, as we've heard. Starry and Jam Young didn't get along, but anyway, that's fine.
It's the format as well. It's like five legit series. That's the thing, and then they play more series at the next stage as well. It's like
legit series,
so many fucking series where it's like, oh, you actually saw something. Like my expectation for Tyloo in this event is not to win a map unless they play an host team or they play Lynn Vision. Honestly, like Lynn Vision, FlyQuest, and the other 2 host teams. Anybody else, I don't expect them to win a map unless it's like maybe one of the Brazilian teams or like the NA teams when they're not playing so great.
Yeah. Anyway, I mean, look, we've talked a lot about Tyloo. I think the last thing I'll say there is that it feels like they've finally got the core of the team to go, like ready to go for the major. I mean, obviously at this point, I don't want to see Attacker leaving that roster. If he's going to leave the roster, if he was a temporary fill-in, I wouldn't want that to change now until after the next major. Obviously, throughout this season, I think he stays. Based on what I've seen there, I think you've got a nice little blend of a team, right? Where you have this sort of look, you have a fairly inconsistent, somewhat streaky Orpa in G. He sometimes has these pop-off performances. Sometimes he's 2-12 for a half. Jam Young can be somewhat the same in that, I don't think he has quite as low of a floor maybe as someone like G, but his ceiling is obviously very high, but he doesn't always hit that. Mercury, Mosey, or Mosea, as they now start to call him again, and Attacker feel like they're maybe a little bit more of those middling kind of core players, if that makes sense. So,
bro, I think Mosey has been low key the more consistent player at EPL, right? Even though Jamming has some crazy pop off games, and it's obviously fucking great, and everyone had it moments. I think Mosey quietly, he's just that workhorse, right? He's a guy just getting things done. Exactly. So yeah, the pieces fit. Yep. Makes sense.
Yeah. So awesome stuff, I think, for Tyloo. Will they be the Mongols of China? I guess that's a question that we have to answer probably over the next few months, maybe over the course of 2025. I think that would be the dream. Now, I'm not necessarily insinuating that they will be a top 5 team, but if they could even get to a position where they're regularly competing inside maybe the top 20, inside the top 30, I think that's what we want. For me, in an ideal world, we want to have Mongolz, China, Tyloo, OS, FlyQuest, and we have those 3 teams that are like all competing for like the number 1 spot within Asia. Obviously, at the moment, it's Mongolz, no doubt. And then below them, they have the Lynn Visions, the Rare Atoms for China, and you have your whoever else, Talon doesn't exist anymore potentially, and Rooster obviously, and OS, and etc. in Mongolia. No Atox, so maybe that's looking a bit grim as well. But anyway, besides the point, I think we're in a position now where, at least as far as the teams that have gotten to that like middle top of the pack kind of area, things are looking pretty cool within Asia. Shall we touch briefly on Lynn Vision? We already have.
Listen, we lost
really.
Atox. We lost Atox for Tyloo to rise, and I'm okay with that.
That's fine with me, to be honest.
Potentially.
I think we lost
Allegedly.
Lynn Vision as well, except
Allegedly.
for fucking one map against Pain where they decided to let Dust 2 through, and Zaka just did his normal Zaka thing. Like that was
The 31,
that was a very enjoyable game to watch, that one map, but outside of that, it was a fucking disaster, bro. And this was a team that I had some expectations for. Like Jordan said Paul Misu was the best player in China after watching one map of him in ECL.
It wasn't even one. It was probably like 4 or 5 rounds.
It was like
frankly,
5 rounds.
Bro,
I saw that pistol and I was like, "Oh, I'm ready to go, buddy! Like let's fucking send him to the dream team."
What the fuck, bro? What happened to these guys? Like,
how is Amelia QAQ, or Amelia CAC, as I like to call him, the highest rated player? He was in the old Lynn Vision. He was like the 4th or 5th. Like he wasn't having to,
Starry
really
had a
pop
shocker.
off.
Starry had a shocker of a
Bro,
tournament.
Starry, I don't know what. Listen, that's what Tyloo does to a man. It fucks you up.
Yo,
Look at me.
What was that comment? Can we go back to that comment? Who was like, they put attacker in for Starry, so it should be more firepower now. That guy is real as fuck.
Yeah.
Who the fuck said that?
Wait, hang on a second.
What a fucking G, dude.
Get him on.
Get him on. This guy knows ball. Like, what the fuck?
Where is
Get him back. Get him on.
It was a Twitch chatter, I remember.
Just replace me on the podcast because this guy fucking knows. Like, I don't know shit.
Who would have thought, dude? Who would have thought attacker coming back?
This guy. I'm trying to find it. I sent it to you guys in our little WhatsApp group.
Yeah. But I mean, yeah, Lynn Vision, like, back to the drawing board, boys. I don't know what that was. That was a stinker of a tournament.
This is after all the reps I've had online as well, and you're expecting something out of it, but yeah, I don't know, man.
I mean, they're beating Tyloo online, bro. They're beating
online.
They're back and forth against Rare. I mean, I know, 100%. But like this regional, like online, and this regional Asia competition, like. I have no doubt in my mind that Tyloo can do better against the field, but I still don't believe that Tyloo is going to consistently beat Lynn Vision, So it's like, I feel like at every Asia event now, I'm going to be like, fuck, I hope Tyloo wins, but I don't know if they will, because I don't have nearly as much faith that Lynn Vision is going to do something if they make the actual tournament the way they're playing.
I mean, we've had Mongolz, lose online as well, right? Before, like last year, even though they were easily the best team in Asia, so... Just online things. I just hope Tyloo are able to capitalize on what should be a decent bump in their Valve rankings and kind of, crack it open so they get invites like FlyQuest and Mongolz.
I didn't think about that. You're right, actually.
Yeah, and I think once they're able to do that, and I think the way they play here and the run they're able to make, if they're able to replicate this at least 1 or 2 more events, they could easily avoid the absolute insanity that is Asian Online Qualifiers. So I think that should be the path ahead for Tyloo.
It's going to make for a pretty interesting ACL, which is coming up next month. Few teams kind of like in an interesting spot. Obviously now, likely no Atox as well. Throws a bit of a spanner in the works there too. But, the couple of Mongolian teams that are looking pretty good, like Huns and Eruption and such. And then you've got, your Chinese mainstays, and you've got FlyQuest and such like that as well for ACL. So should be a pretty cool tournament. But let's talk OS. We'll start with Housebets and Mindfreak, because I think you can kind of lump them in together, frankly. Not a map one between them. I will say I think Mindfreak probably looked to play a little better to me than Housebets did. Like they had a little bit of a better time, I guess, than what Housebets did. But realistically speaking, it was just a quirk of the system that we ended up with this many Oceanic teams and these specific Oceanic teams as well. And unfortunately, I guess this goes to show exactly why there aren't more O slots that are given out, because they just were not able to cut the mustard. And yeah, there are some reasons for that, because obviously they don't get the experience to play, internationally all that often. But it was a thoroughly expected performance, I'll say, from Housebets and Mindfreak, unfortunately.
I have to say, for the O scene, this has got to be one of the worst times to ever get so many slots to an international tournament. Like, it has not been this weak a field for a long time. Like, I could pick certain times in like a domestic scene history where I could like say, yo, actually send, a couple of these teams over, or like, we had like a Tainted Chiefs kind of like rivalry with the like top 3 or 4 teams for a little bit. This is very far from that. This is literally like what we were saying about the Asian scene, where like you got a Mongolz, in this case, a FlyQuest, a lot worse, but like it's still like the top dog of the scene, and then the rest of the scene is nowhere near that on a much lower level. That's how I definitely feel about OS right now, and it showed at this tournament. The only bright spot I would say out of pretty much like Mindfreak and Housebets combined is like getting to see Texter play at an international event and actually have a fucking good map or two. I'm like, fuck yeah, bro. Like, but it made me kind of sad because it's like, bro, like this guy could be on a FlyQuest. So I've always thought that. Like, I've legit always thought like this guy could be on FlyQuest or something like that, or like the best Aussie team at certain points if certain things hadn't happened. And like he would be legit as fuck. And even at this international tournament, after years and years of not even touching CS, to play for a while in CS2, like semi-seriously, but not like super hard cracking. He even showed like on some maps he can actually play pretty decent against some quality opposition. So like, I don't know what's to come in the future. Mindfreak's probably going to still be pretty competitive inside the O scene, and maybe he'll get some more chances to play. But like, yeah, I don't know. Like, I could put Texter on a fucking like Talon or some shit, or on I don't know if it necessarily justifies a FlyQuest or something, but he's pretty fucking good. Yeah.
I was going to say Texter as well. I think, there was definitely, like you said, that alternate timeline where Texter and Tux ended up being a core component of the Greyhound into FlyQuest, or Greyhound into Renegades, into Order, into FlyQuest. Like that, they could have been part of that core in some kind of a world. We might see Tux next to Ins or something like that, because at that time back in the day they were the sort of tied together in that conversation, and then Texter came a little bit later on, but he was always someone that was heralded as a bit of an up and comer. But yeah, look, end of the day,
23, bro, and he was qualifying for international events when he's like 15 or 16 on LAN. Like, it's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think there's much really to say about Mindfreak or Housebets. It is what it is. But on the topic of FlyQuest, where do we sit? Was this a good performance? Was this a bad performance? Was it kind of middling? I want to say middling to poor, just purely because they lost the third match against Tyloo. They got to the point where they could have potentially qualified. I think there was some competitive series in there. We started to see a couple more of those flashes of, this FlyQuest actually claps a little bit sometimes. But they just didn't quite make it again, which is kind of like the story of FlyQuest, really, isn't it? Had they lost that decider match to a team that wasn't from their region, I think maybe you might have said, okay, well, that's not too bad. But just the fact that they lost it to Tyloo, I think, is pretty unfortunate for FlyQuest going forward, because that will be a team that they will be competing with regionally in a lot of senses. So was it good enough from FlyQuest? No, but it was better than what we saw at Cluj-Napoca. So I guess progress is progress, especially given, again, like they say, they've not had a boot camp, but, I've heard that a lot of times now. So it at some point, like, what can you say?
I think, like, the interesting thing for me right now is just, like, I like to see this, like, kind of tier 2, 3 level where it's like you see teams like FlyQuest and M80 and like tier 2 Brazilian teams all in the same tournaments, and the Asia teams all kind of lumped together, because I feel like I can't confidently say like which teams are necessarily going to beat which teams sometimes, and like some of them seem to be a little bit inconsistent. So I kind of like, I'm not sure, I don't keep a super close eye on the matches, but I'm always interested to see like who's winning those kind of series, and that's what's interesting to me about an EPL group stage like this. Is it's like a good kind of measure of like what region is super strong at the moment.
Yeah,
I think my issue with FlyQuest is I think Dexter also replied to one of my tweets as well, and I was like, man, this has been kind of disappointing run. It said like how obviously with Regali coming in, it's going to take a while for all the moving bits to kind of coalesce together and for it to make sense. Which, listen, I get it. Like, you're not just getting just a slotting in an AWP, but maybe moving things around, maybe trying to shuffle up stuff. Because I still remember how good they looked, at least in their run at the major, right? Initially, before they got eventually knocked out, but they looked very good. There was some very good pieces there, but it's taking so long. That's my worry right now, guys. It's like almost gonna be the middle of March right now, right? It's been almost 2.5 months, and so far there's nothing. Where look, you're sure it looked okay-ish at times, taking on Paint, who also, by the way, is struggling right now. I don't know what's happening with them at the same time. So questions have to be asked, because at some point you need to deliver results. And when the time you're taking for things to kind of fall into place is resulting in ins just looking so mediocre. Like, I've never seen him look this flaccid in a fucking game, man. This is the hard carry. This is the guy we used to talk about being, you just pick him up and put him in an EU team, he's going to fucking kick ass, right? And he looks just like a shadow of himself. And I'm sure he's going to bounce back, but it clearly shows that it's taking a while for whatever changes they have to really, fall into place. Another player I have to point out is Liaz. I think Liaz is really, really struggling. We kept talking about inconsistencies for Vexat and Liaz. Right now, Liaz is consistently subpar in a fragging output. Sure, I'm like, taking roles aside, right? He should be putting in a little bit more numbers for his team, because right now it's looking grim. He's rated below Dexter in EPL. It was very quiet in Cluj as well. So now with Ins kind of struggling and, Regali being the only one who's seemingly hitting any shots at the moment, questions will be raised. Even if you have a great system, if no one's fucking shooting heads, like, what the fuck's going on, right? And I say this because I saw how good they were at the end of last year. So, yeah, I don't know where they lie right now, but yeah, that's that. I feel bad. But
yeah, I don't know. I mean, I feel like it's the same conversation a lot of the time when we talk about FlyQuest, just because nothing really changes, unfortunately. What I will say is, I think Regali has looked pretty good. Like, I was obviously pretty tentative about it when the move initially happened, but I just think, at least pound for pound, like individually, you can see that he is doing pretty well in this team. It's just that, again, like, it hasn't really seemed to have fixed the issue. What the issue is for FlyQuest, I don't know. I can't remember who it was that was talking about it. Maybe it was on the EPL show, but it was like, someone was like, well, you win if you just shoot more. And like, Regali is kind of like shooting more, you know what I mean? But like, it's still, the wins aren't coming, if that makes sense.
I mean,
something
meme
else
aside as well. Yeah, the vibes look fucking horrible. It looks atrocious. That's a tweet I put out. I'm like, I'd rather have Ali a team and they look a little bit more happier and at least trying to win, rather than, just looking so dead. Like, there's just no one there in the team who's kind of like, come on, boys, you fucking got this. And the guys are fucking down under. Like, expect a little bit more from them. But obviously, the four personalities, they're not very loud guys. And I really feel the absence of Ali in events like this can be felt, right? We were joking about the fact that, the vibes are there without Ali. But it really seems like that's the case, right?
Maybe.
You can see frustration being writ large. Even the games are winning, some of the close ones, you can just see them looking so, yeah, all right, cool, we won the game, guys, Yeah,
I don't know. I mean, you say that, I guess, but like, when the one thing is, like, whenever we heard a listen, I felt like the vibes, at least in the server, like the comms, were actually kind of okay. You know what I mean? So credit to at least keeping that to a pretty decent level, I think, for FlyQuest. So, again, it's probably one of those things where, like, we're looking at it from the outside and we're like, oh, this and that, but then on the inside, they're like, well, we're actually kind of just chilling. Like, that's just their vibe.
Well, they're chilling while losing to Tyloo, man. It's not big chilling if you ask me. So yeah,
sure. What else is there to say on FlyQuest? I guess the next tournament that they're in is Melbourne, I think. I think that's the next thing that they're playing in. And then, that's obviously like about a month away. So hopefully they have some time to get a boot camp in with Regali and like actually work on some of this stuff. And look, I think again, the thing with FlyQuest is like, all it takes is like one good tournament and everyone's like, yeah, fuck it, let's go FlyQuest, we're the best. You know what I mean? Like, everyone loves to jump on when they play well. So I don't think that they've lost the support of the community just yet. Hopefully things go well in Melbourne. Hopefully things go well at the major.
It's so close, like 2-3.
Yes, exactly.
But like at the same time, they lose the series in fashion that's concerning, or they'll beat like Lynn Vision and Pain, which is like, and then lose to Tyloo. So like that's what I'm saying. Like, Tyloo's playing all the top teams in the tournament, and then FlyQuest is like less of a convincing run overall, and like they're losing to like M80 and stuff like that. Just little bit like concerning. And the thing is, I don't even know like what to say. Like, I feel like, would they even be that much better if they were to change a player at this point, like when they're like just on the cusp, or do they feel like they just need to make minor changes to breach that? I guess I don't know.
Guess that's up to them. Let's talk Mongolz. We'll jump over to the stage 2 graphic here. I don't know that there's, again, like, I don't know that there's really a huge amount to say here. This is kind of just like a standard Mongolz performance at this point in time. You know, Spirit Vitality go through 1 and 2, that makes sense. And then you got Mongolz there at 3 and 1 right behind them, which is very much in line with the expectations as it is nowadays, with them being somewhat in that top 5, top 3 if you ask Valve. But yeah, for me, like, obviously a fairly solid top 5 team, but I don't think you can really push them into the top 3.
I think they're top. I think they're top 16.
Top 6, sure, that's fine. I can agree with that.
Yeah, and the reason being, they can't just Vitality, Spirit, Navi, they haven't beaten them yet. Sure, they beat Spirit like a year ago, but
okay, it doesn't count.
Once you do that, that's when I'm like, yeah, you're a top 5 team right now.
Yeah.
But
yeah. No, I agree. But yeah, look, I guess, you know, wins over Gamer Legion, G2, 3D Max, lost obviously to Spirit.
The G2 win, especially, by the way, the comeback they pulled off was very, very cool to see, right? Because this is a team where we've seen them historically kind of struggle when they, to kind of pull off the comeback, so to speak, and close out games. But this seems like a thing of the past. And for me, I agree with you. Nothing too crazy. It's just the fact that they've solidified themselves as a lock-in for every playoffs I've played. They've been in every playoffs of every tournament I've played ever since. This is before Berlin, way before Berlin, actually. I think for almost like half a year.
Yeah,
right
no,
now.
it feels like, honestly, it almost feels like more like 9 months, like since
Rio was the last event where they didn't qualify for the playoffs when they lost to VP.
Rio,
I remember that.
That was after Jönköping, right? Must be.
It was after Jönköping, yeah. And ever since then, they have not failed to make it to the playoffs of any fucking land, which is, honestly, God, dude, not a lot of teams are able to pull that off. Not even like top 5 teams at times.
12 months ago, we would have been like, fuck yeah, I'll take that. I'll take that for sure. So Mongolz get a stamp of approval. I mean, I call it like a B+, you know what I mean? Like it wasn't anything outstanding, but it definitely wasn't a bad performance. We'll see obviously how they go in the playoffs. We're recording this on the 11th, so playoffs haven't happened yet. So we'll talk about that when it comes.
It is exciting though, because the thing is, we speak about the playoff struggles in the arena, right? And they have had struggles over there. I can't deny that. When it comes to nerves, they themselves have said it as well. EPL being in the studio environment though, with the playoffs, and we know how good they have been in Thunderpick in Berlin, for example. They're playing in smaller studio settings, so to speak. So I feel like this is an event where they could really make that deep run, despite it being, I think, 8-team bracket?
I assume it's an 8-team, yeah. Could be.
Yeah, okay, cool. That's better than last CPL.
That's coming out of Swiss.
Yeah.
Either way, on the topic of Mongolz, I'm sure you guys saw this. They are now the Mongolian national team. Now, what does that mean? None of us are from Mongolia, so we have no fucking idea, really. But we're going to talk about it anyway. I think it's pretty cool, like, as a concept. From what I've heard, though, from the Mongolian community that I speak to, people are kind of like, oh, this is kind of a meme. Mongolian government just trying to get in and get the kids on board and, garner some votes and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, if it is what they say it is, which is what the Mongols are sort of saying, is that, they get... Someone said they're going to get diplomatic visas and they're going to have, an easier time of getting around the place and stuff like that. I think that's pretty cool. I mean, I would assume if you're a national team, you would be getting some kind of financial benefit as well from the government, just some kind of, not salary necessarily, but I assume the org or the team would have some kind of benefit for equipment, for housing, for whatever, training, I don't know, training facilities, something like that. That would be my guess. So this is kind of cool, I guess. I think overall it seems to be a tick in my book. This is a tweet from Nomin Chinbat, who is the member of Mongolian Parliament, Minister of Culture, Sports, Tourism and Youth. So there you go. So, I don't know, it seems all pretty legit. The one thing that I said, I think is pretty funny, by the way, is have a look at this picture. Have a look at this picture of Senzu. He's absolutely locked in on the meeting. He's really serious about this.
Again. This is unreal. He's on the fucking stage in front of the government.
I mean, I appreciate
locked in, bro.
I appreciate MCNio's at least faking interest. He's like, I know how to he's not that far out of school. You know what I mean?
She's probably saying some cooked shit, bro. She's probably saying I love Counter-Strike. It's
you know what?
Wizards and shit. I love that one character. My favorite.
My favorite gun is the AK-47. Yeah.
She's
look. I think I can comment on this because this is very similar to a lot of it, in India, for example, right? The government wants to always get involved. Dude, every year there's this Indian Esports Federation supported by the government of India. And usually it's not. It's all fucking bullshit. This is clearly, the real deal, right? And I think you touch upon the most important point for me as well, the diplomatic visa. I don't think it's a diplomatic visa. I think it's a sports visa, but
Something
it
like
is
that,
still something like that. If that makes it easy, because I remember back in the day when the original Mongols couldn't make it to Columbus after qualifying for the fucking major. It was because of visa issues. They couldn't make it, right? So I think this is a step in the right direction. If it helps their travel, it's great. But I do have to echo the thoughts of my other Mongolian brothers that, yeah, I know when the government gets involved, they want to get more out of this than the players really are. But hey, like you said, if you're able to get maybe a stipend, maybe a little bit more support when it comes to infrastructure. But more importantly for me, if this leads to the Mongolian government as a trickle down, helping the Mongolian scene develop new talent in the long term. That for me is a big deal. Because remember, I think it was 2018 or 19 where the mayor of Ulaanbaatar was we're going to ban all LAN cafes.
Gone from banning net cafes to like, wait, what?
I've got the tweet there.
These guys are pretty good. Oh, national team of Mongolia. Hello,
no
fellow kids.
Being banned. How about we build a few more LAN cafes, right, to get our talent like this? So yeah, I really can't say anything bad about this news. I think it's pretty cool, but yeah, let's not get too crazy. Yeah.
Hey, at least look. Usually, when like government funding and stuff like that gets involved in a lot, like you say, the Indian scene, it's been a similar thing in OS and some other scenes. It's like usually some kind of like absolute fraudster, like just siphoning money out of some clueless politician. At least this time they're supporting the right team. So yeah, let's go.
Yeah, and I mean, hopefully there can be some back and forth, right, where the Mongols are like, okay, well, this is what esports is all about. Like this is how you should do it the right way, and it may be mutually beneficial. Let's say for the esports scene and the Mongolian government, I guess, in some way, shape, or form. I just wanted to sort of quickly shout out to Jean. She did ask the question, what's the take on the government involvement in CS? Like there's a new Mongolz national team. Sky Esports mentioning they're also getting a little bit of state government inquiries. I don't know if you saw that one, Bleh. That was in that recent article from Dust to India. Does it seem likely that stuff like this will help sustain / stabilize the scene long term, or are these just kind of neat short term things? So yeah, I mean, what's your take?
I would go with the latter. I've seen it's too many. Like every time there's any esports event, I mean, most esports events happening in the country, it's mostly like when it says government involvement, it is the state government, right? And look, I'll be fucking real, man. Most of the state government people don't fucking know how to operate a computer half the fucking times. So I don't think they really know, what's really going on. It's more about, it's going to be mutually beneficial, yada yada yada. I'm not going to read too much into it if I were you. I read the interview. Look, again, I've been very critical of them, and it's good to know they haven't, just pulled the plug, right? They're like, listen, we're still gonna stick around and work with the tier 2 scene. They're doing a lot of local lands and whatnot. But I just fail to see, again, because of a lack of players and teams in the country, I fail to see the game plan, right? Kind of like the chart where I can see them, okay, going from here to here to here to here. Because again, he said, like the end of the year, we're planning to do another big event, which they do have planned, right? In October, November. But when you keep fucking it up every single time, like even then, I'm like, they've also said they've upgraded some of the production equipment and whatnot, I heard, and they're going to be time with government and whatnot. But I still fail to see how it's going to surpass the better ones they've done, like the one in Mumbai where day one was horrible, but they're able to come back from that. Like I fail to see it until they actually do it. So not gonna be too critical. Again, they had an event recently in Bangalore as well, small event, but I had a lot of people attending. Like a couple hundred people on land. It seemed to go off without a hitch as well, so that's good. That's a good sign. But yeah, I'm just gonna wait and see at this point.
Yeah, I mean, I guess quickly on the topic of Sky Esports, I think it did look like a positive direction to me. It's pretty much exactly what we said on the podcast. So I sort of gave him a nice little tweet and said, good credit where it's due. But obviously, deliver.
In regards to the actual question as well, to drop little tidbits of info, as far as I've heard, there is like plenty of examples of like government involvement in CS that has been like at least decent. Like you look at the Danish scene, you look at some of the events in Oz, for example, where like, as far as I know, there's some kind of government help in terms of putting on the event or subsidizing it or making it easier to organize or something like that, as far as I've heard. So,
well, I mean, we can just talk about it because it's a thing with IEM Melbourne. There's a Visit Victoria, which is like part of the Victorian government. So Victoria is a state, obviously, of Australia, for those that don't know. They have an incentive, I guess, to try to get events to their state. There are very like I guess the idea of Melbourne as a city is like it's a very cultural city, right? It's a very sporting city. It's a very cultured city. You know, you can go there for a lot of cool things. It's where you go for like arts and sport and music and all this sort of stuff. That's I think what they're trying to do, right? And so they've had a deal to bring things like DreamHack and IEM to Melbourne for a few years. That's why Melbourne Esports Open, for example, existed in the first place. For those that again probably not super familiar with it as CS fans because it wasn't a CS event, but yeah, it's a big sort of esports gaming event. So yeah, that kind of thing.
So like my usual take is like I'm always skeptical, and I think like usually it's like borderline fraudulent. Like is my like usual stance is like suspicion, but there's like plenty of examples of it being actually a good thing.
Yeah, awesome stuff. Yeah, I don't know. We'll see how it goes. Obviously, hopeful that it works out nicely for the Mongols and for the rest of the Mongolian scene. There was, I mean, and this is just a side tangent quickly, recently, I think over the last couple of days, a law, or they're trying to put in a law in Mongolia that bans gambling of some sort. I think it's something to do with like, you know, online casinos, et cetera, et cetera. It's going to affect things like 1xBet, which is obviously a major sponsor of the Mongols and a lot of the Mongolian scene, to be honest. I think they sponsored MESA at one point as well. So that we'll see how that affects it. So on one hand, it seems like there's like moves that are making positive steps in regards to esports, and also moves that are, in this one, in theory, I think will hurt the esports scene quite a lot. It will take a lot of money out of the esports scene because that's where, again, a lot of the funding comes from. So yeah, if, for example, that law does come through, I don't know if it was, you know, going through or it's being discussed or what have you. If that goes through, Mongols lose one of their title sponsors, and you'd hope that, you know, that there's going to be some sort of financial incentive coming back in the direction of the Mongols from the Mongolian government to sort of offset that in some way, shape, or form. But that's probably above our pay grade. Let's just talk about some Counter-Strike. We've got the MESA Asian Masters.
Yeah, a quick shout out to, I saw this as well. They put out a tweet, but like 70,000 peak viewership for the Mongols when they played EPL. Not even the playoffs game, which is, I think, the highest we've seen thus far. Even
they
more
keep breaking records, man.
Dude, 70,000, I did the math. That's 2% of the population of Mongolia, which is insane, dude. So,
how many would that be in India? If you got 2% of the population there, it'd be 2 million, right?
That's like my neighborhood over here. It's like
that's like a billion people in India, isn't there?
1.5.
1.5 billion. So you'd have over 2 billion. Over 2 million. Is that 2% of a billion? I don't know.
Dude, 2% of a billion is like 200 million. No, that's like 20 million.
20 million. I'm not good at
20 million viewers.
That's a lot of fucking viewers, cunt.
That's a lot of fucking viewers. So but dude, like I said, like 2% of a country's population is fucking massive. So shout out to the Mongolians for tuning in, man. Like, and I think this really matters when you see even a Brazilian scene, everyone's talking about, oh my God, in Brazil, you have viewers and whatnot. But we can see Mongolia getting there despite the fact they still have such a tiny population.
It's 20 million. I looked it up on Google. Thanks, Google. Anyway, that's good. That's great. Onto Mongolia again. MESA Asian Masters. And it's not just specifically Mongolia, I guess, because there was a couple of OS teams here. And a Chinese team as well, Middle Eastern team. So the MESA Asian Masters, for those that don't know, was the PGL Bucharest qualifier. And as far as I know, it's the only LAN qualifier for PGL Bucharest. All the other ones, EU and NA and whatnot, are all online. But MESA, I believe, I don't know, I'm going to give credit to MESA, though, because they're the outlier in this scenario. I believe it would have been MESA that would have said, okay, we can do this as a LAN for you, PGL. Can we do it?
Yep.
And they made it happen. And it was pretty cool. Top 8 teams. Now, there was a little bit of shenanigans that happened with Talon. Talon was supposed to attend this event, or ex-Talon, as they were now, was supposed to attend this event. And they never ended up getting flights for that event until the day that they were supposed to leave.
Crazy.
Now, before you guys dive in on this, there's two sides to this story. One side being the Talon side, where basically they're like, oh, well, we just didn't get given flights. The other side that I have heard is that MESA contacted Talon well in advance, and no one from Talon got back to them. Whoever the representative was from the org, I don't know, didn't get back to them until very, very late. And that may be due to the fact that Talon no longer had a CS team, which ultimately ended up fucking over these players. Who that contact was, I don't know. Which side of that story is true, I don't know. But the end result is obviously Talon didn't end up going. They were replaced by Hotu, which is pretty bad news. Again, I say Talon, I mean ex-Talon. it's pretty bad news for this ex-Talon team, which is fucking hungry for some VRS points, and this would have been the perfect event to go to get some VRS points. There's very beatable teams there for them, even if they were playing with Malta and Sterling. But as I understand, there was definitely a world where they were going to go, and then they just didn't end up getting the flights in time, and so they couldn't go. So pretty rough. But at least as far as the tournament was concerned, I talked to a couple of the players that went, and they said it was really good. Look, it was a slow tournament, as is the case in every instance of a Mongolian tournament I've ever seen. For some reason, it takes 2 hours between series. I don't know why. But other than that, they said, hospitality was really good. The people were really good. The staff were really good. The event, generally speaking, ran pretty well, apart from how long it took to get between games. So overall, I would say a success from my point of view for MESA. Again, unfortunate with regard to Talon, but the event itself went relatively smoothly, I guess, at the end of the day. And it was Rare Adam that walked away with the win 3-0 in that grand final after making a huge lower bracket run and took the spot to PGL Bucharest. But, I mean, whatever about that. I think just the fact that we had a 8-team tournament for a fucking qualifier for Asia is fucking sick.
Go MESA. That's all I have to say. I think they've been just doing a fucking great job overall, man. And despite a few hiccups when they had the Blast qualifier, right? I think that's the one a couple of years ago.
No, that wasn't. Oh, that was a long time ago. Yeah.
That was long. Yeah, from going from that to where they are right now as being probably one of the most consistent TOs in Asia and kind of providing these LAN platforms for a lot of these teams to play, I think it's fantastic. Yeah, a bit unfortunate about the entire thing, with Atox and Talon not being there, because I felt like they were there. It would have been interesting because Rare Adam, obviously, they had a great run over here, but I feel like Rare Adam versus Atox, I think would have been great finals. Them against Talon, I think would have been a good finals as well. So a little marred, but hey, congrats to Rare Adam as well. They're not done yet, man. I always feel like this team's going to fall apart at some point, but they keep qualifying. So yeah, shout out to somebody and the crew.
I solo casted this whole tournament, by the way. It was It was fucking painful. There was a 13-hour day in there, and I watched some of the worst Counter-Strike I have seen in a while. Like, it's really weird. Like, this Rare Adam team can play like so shit, like so bad. And then they can go into the grand final and win 3-0 against the team that's basically not dropped a map the whole time in the tournament. Like, no, I don't really know who this Ho2 team is, but they're coached by Mo, the guy from fucking
Gambit.
Yeah, but that's it. Yeah, the ex-major winner, obviously. So you'd think that they've got some chops, and they were pretty decent. They were pretty sharp. They were doing really well in the upper bracket.
Are they East Russians and Kazakhs,
Eastern Russian,
or are they just?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. One Kazakh and I think 4 East Russians. And they were a replacement team. They were the replacement team for Talon. No, Eruption was the replacement team for Atox. So there was 2 replacement teams.
But they were in that qualifier.
Yeah, they came second in that qualifier, and then Eruption came third, basically, or something like that. So.
Oh, and Mo's coaching them?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
right.
so I think there's some legitimacy, I guess, to that roster, and they actually looked pretty good. I thought actually going into that grand final they were going to beat Rare Adam 3-0, and then they lost 3-0 to Rare Adam. So it's like, where's this Rare Adam all the time? Where's the fucking Rare Adam that looks good and 3-0 is a grand final? Not the fucking somebody pushes a smoke for the 15th round in a row after getting 1-2K at the start of the fucking series and dies again and gives up a player advantage again. Like the amount of times they were like retaking B on Inferno or something, and somebody's like the first rotator. It's like a 3v4 or something. And he's like, I'm just going to push this smoke because the bomb's going down. The other 3 players on my team are fucking on the A bomb site right now, but I'm just going to pop flash my way through this smoke and die and do fuck all. It tilted the shit out of me, as you can see. Because I was casting this, and I'm like, like I said, solo casting. Like 10 hours into my day, I'm like, fucking finally, Rare Adam 2-0, we're gonna finish the day off. And then I'm watching somebody fucking push a smoke every fucking time, give up player advantage. I'm just watching the scoreline go from like 10-3, 10-4, 10-5, 10-6, 10-7, 10-8, and then it goes OT, and Rare Adam like loses the map or something. I'm just like, fucking please.
He's never gonna change. Somebody is
exactly. And there were some times where he did that, and he won some fucking crazy rounds. So. Go off, King.
Hell yeah.
Just not on
I
my
think it's
time,
good.
Thanks.
I mean, East Russia is part of Asia, to be fair. But
did you see that graphic? I've got to put it up on the screen. Hang on. Let me do some work while you talk. Yeah.
Okay. But it's good to see. I mean, like, it's another China team getting some experience at an international event. I'm just kind of tilted because, like, oh man, like every tournament I see is like Oceania 7th to 8th. 15th, 16th. It's like, bro, come on. Can we do something, guys? We've had over the last month, how many players have we had overseas? We've had like 25 or 30 players overseas, and we can't fucking win a series, boys. Like, please help me. let's build a team that can do something. Bleh.
What the fuck is that?
That's Asia.
Why does it look like a shriveled up cock upside down?
What the fuck?
That's Asia as far as Valve is concerned. So as you can see, it encompasses probably 3/4 of Russia, all of Asia, all of Australia, all of New Zealand, all of South Africa.
Kazakhstan's not circled.
Apparently
Come on, they can't. No, come on. We got to put the Kazakhstan in there.
Let them in.
Coach has got some Kazakhstan players. Let's put Kazakhstan in there. Maybe just the eastern part of Kazakhstan. Let's be fair. Okay. Swallow up some more.
Oh, by the way, this is the region that they have online qualifiers for. By the way, across. Yeah. In case people are wondering.
Yeah.
I remember.
Have you heard of Guam? Have you heard of this island?
Yeah, that's like in the middle.
Can you find Guam?
Oh no, where's Guam?
I've had.
Where actually is Guam, by the way? I don't really know.
Can we draw the cables through the Arabian Sea? The Indian Ocean.
Guam's like out here somewhere, isn't it? On the side.
It's there. It's right there. Yeah, somewhere around there.
Oh, right in the middle. It's right in the middle.
Hey,
Enhanced. All right, listen. I've had a TO from, I've had very well-known TO. I'm not going to name names right now, but in 2018, when I was helping them host the qualifiers for one of their big events, and I'm like, yo, listen, you can't lump in Australia with Southeast Asia. They're like, yeah, but they can play each other, right? Like, what's a ping like? They can play. They're close by on the map. I'm like, you guys are insane. Like, what are you talking about? So yeah, I think everyone should study, the map and geography and everything just to figure out how things work. But
otherwise,
good job, Jordan.
Geographically challenged. All right. Yeah.
Is that it?
Well, that is almost it. There is one minor little thing that I don't know if you guys saw here. Alistair, quote unquote, coaching Semper-Fi. This is from the HLTV roster on the MESA Asian Masters. Now, he didn't actually go and coach Semper-Fi. Kingfisher was there as the coach.
Kingfisher, okay, it's been a while. Shout out.
Right. Yeah, Mr. Mongolia. He just pops up in Mongolia, like sup. Same thing happened when he went to Mongolia and basically played for Vertex at the RMR. But Alistair there for Semper-Fi is an interesting prospect. I don't know where that's come from with regard to HLTV, but you put two and two together and you think, well, maybe Alistair's coming into Semper-Fi. At which point it becomes a question of for whom. You're not getting rid of Keen or Shady, I don't think, being the imports. Savage is obviously not leaving that team because he's Harry Potter, basically. He's the chosen one. And that would mean Valiance or Vision potentially moving on from the team. So we'll see what happens there. I know there's obviously been a lot of rumors around Alistair going to Talon. From my understanding, that is not happening. So this may be where Alistair ends up for anyone that's kind of keeping an eye on things and is interested in seeing where Alistair goes. I don't know if you guys want to have any discussion on that. I don't think there's a huge amount to really break down until there's any confirmation one way or the other. But the only thing I think we should probably touch on before we say goodbye is Talon. Talon, unfortunately, as you've seen, there was an announcement now that they are sort of closing the CS2 division, which means that the team now is, who knows necessarily. Obviously, MHL was benched, but he's going back to Europe. Azza's still in Europe, so that leaves Netic, Hazza, and Addict as a core. As far as I know, the core plus Malta and Sterling are going to be playing at Bris Vegas, and then beyond that, don't really know. So I don't know about you, Pilski. I mean, I guess this is for you and I really to have a bit more of a back and forth about. But if I'm Rooster, and they're like, we could have Danny G, or we could have Netic.
I got trust issues, bro. Because didn't they say that they were gonna build a team for the foreseeable future and shit? And it's and we want to invest in the O scene and our owners are from Australia and shit. And it's like what the fuck was that? Guys?
But that was
we don't need to.
That was assuming they made it to the major. That's what they forgot to mention.
But didn't they say I don't know. This is all paraphrasing, but I swear I heard this first major is not a big deal. like we're building a project for like the medium to long term, big gap in Europe, all that shit. And I know the PRS fucked all that up.
I think that was the plan. Look, I don't know. I've not spoken to anyone from Talon, obviously. I believe that was the plan. But the issue with that is like they have a fucking facility in Malta. The teams in Malta, they should be able to play. But there's nothing for them to play there. So what's the fucking point?
I know what all the issues are. Well, what's the point? I mean,
they could have them be a team from ANZ. That's true, but
I'm frustrated because like we have got so many fucking players and like some good players as well, and no fucking org to just put 5 fucking players together. Like every team needs 2 roster changes, and there's like 3 or 4 fucking teams with like 3 good players. Like, what the fuck are we doing? And we finished last place in every event. Like, those teams are last place in every event, and we have enough players to make 2 fucking good teams. And we just don't have a fucking org, and we can't have fucking 5 cunts get in a room and be like, let's make a fucking good team that can fucking beat Atox, who we don't even have to fucking beat anymore, boys. Can we beat somebody? He's almost 30. Like, fuck me. Come on. Like,
and he pushes a smoke every second round.
We fucking got Freeman imported because we can't put another fucking host team together. Like, we're picking up players from Hong Kong. Help me.
Pilski's in his HLTV confirmed sponge ranting era. He's grown the beard out. He's like, I'm going to emulate this guy and just rant.
Are you not mad, Jordan? Are you not mad? Like, we're just getting fucking fisted in every tournament.
I think I'm at the point where like I don't really care anymore. You know what I mean? Like I've fully converted to being Asia. Like if I died and was born again, I'd be born in Mongolia. You know what I mean? Like that's
oh, here we go. Let's
that's
get
where I'm
Jordan
at.
Mays copy pasta. Change his name. What's the fucking Mongolian Jordan Mays name?
Jordan Mays. All right, getting closer now.
Oh, for fuck's sake!
You're unhinged as fuck.
You're fucking cooked.
I was gonna say it's like how I have German citizenship as well. It's like when the football World Cup, the soccer World Cup's on. It's like I'm German, for that couple of months. You know what I mean? So right now, as far as CS is concerned, I'm Asian, I'm Mongolian and Chinese. Like I'm half Mongolian, half Chinese, and like 1% Australian. So when FlyQuest inevitably does really well at Melbourne, like fuck yeah, let's go the boys. Until then, fucking ni howdy, warrior morni. Anyone that speaks Chinese.
Namaste. Okay, we don't count.
I don't speak Bakla. That's Mongolian for thank you. Probably bad pronunciation, but anyway.
Fuck do you say?
Yeah. Called you
Sounds like baklava.
Baklava. Shall we wrap it up there?
Yeah.
Yeah? All right.
Yeah.
That's good. All right, that was Geographically Challenged episode number 78. Shout-outs to SkinClub. Shout-outs to buymeacoffee.com/Elfishguy. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe. Give us your questions. We'll be back. Who knows when, actually, because in a couple of weeks...
After Mongolz wins EPL, yeah, sure.
Yeah. In a couple of weeks is the Defrag Invitational. That's probably the next stop for me. Obviously, you guys aren't going to be there, but I'll be there, so I'll try and hook one up with the boys. I don't know who's going to be there. We'll see who we can get on. If we can do a live episode, that'll be pretty cool there. So look out for that one in a couple of weeks. Peace. Hey guys, just at the end of that video and heading into 2025, I want to give a massive shout out to Jean, who has been a big supporter of mine on buymeacoffee.com/Elfishguy. She's been a member for over 12 months. And if you'd be interested in supporting my content and getting this content grind going, then head over there as well and check it out. Thank you very much.